Welcome to another review, this time The Walking Dead the board game by Cryptozoic, a zombie horror survival game for 1 to 4 players. I played a whole bunch of Zombicide recently and just did a review on that, and that sort of got me thinking, well, hey, I should finally pull out that Walking Dead game that my son and I got a year and a half ago and see how that plays. It's a horror survival game for 1 to 4 players, semi-cooperative. But I'm only looking at the solo variant here. So I unpacked it. I've played about 20 or 25 games of it, and now it's time to go ahead and take a look at the components. So as far as the components go, I opened up the box and my first thought was actually, wow, this is pretty nice. So you have your rule book. I'll talk about that in a second. And the first thing that drew my attention was the neoprene game mat. I thought that was a pretty neat idea. I'll talk about that in a minute. And the insert, it looks really nice. The card stock is actually pretty decent. These are the little standees, and you get your stands with it and 1 dice. You get cards, which are they're fairly thin stock. I don't think they're super nice. They're very slick, but I mean they're okay. And then the artwork, you can see they're all different. So I will talk about all the different parts here in a minute, but the insert itself is nice except for one thing. There are no finger holes anywhere, so it's a real kind of a pain you have to bend it and dig in and out. And it's hardest here with the player cards. So anyway, player cards, just decent cardboard stock. This version comes with a neoprene mat. I don't know if other versions come with a regular cardboard game board. Okay, so the individual pieces. You have the neoprene game mat, which rolls out. I thought it was really cool when I first looked at it, but one issue that it has is that it does have these curls on the edge. And if you've got heavy pieces, that's fine, but when you have cardboard, it gets a little more problematic. Minor issue, but it does make things kind of slide off and not sit straight when you have little cardboard standees. You have tokens for your allies. They're just little cardboard pieces, and they have a picture on the back of each one. You have your game cards, Walking Dead on the back, individual survivors from the show on the front, and each one has a special ability. Decent stock. You get 2 little sheriff's tokens, 2 zombie tokens. That's for a 2-on-2 match, and you get multiple little standees. And then there are 4 sets of cards. You have your cards that go in the corner, and they're just the different places that you go. You have to collect these up to win. Then you have your encounter cards, and these are just, you flip these over as you get encounters, and I'll talk about that in a moment. There's some walker cards. I haven't opened those because you only use that when people turn into walkers, and you don't do that in a 1-player version. And then you have your scrounge cards, which are your individual items that you can get, and they give you plus-ups when you fight the zombies. That is really all of the components to the game. They're okay quality, standard, not as nice as some other games, but I have seen worse as well. So next I'll talk about the rulebook. Okay, so we'll talk about the rulebook. There's only 4 pages total of rules, and then there's 1 paragraph on how you play it solo. The rules are very clear, but it's also an incredibly easy game, and it's all summed up on the back here. So basically, the single-player rules come down to, in a single-player game, your only objective is to survive long enough to get back to the camp with all 4 location tiles. There are no rules changes, though you may set the walker deck aside as it will not be needed. Well, yeah, because you can't turn into a walker. If you turn into a walker, you're dead. If you die, the game is over. If you succeed, try again playing as a different character. So that is the solo variant. So you add to the 4 pages. Now, of course, the last half of the 4th page is actually what happens when you turn into a walker. So for a single game, you really only have 3.5 pages. There's also a 4-player 2-on-2 alternate game. And then there's some facts in the back, which are eh. And then on the back is just a quick guide, which gives you the turn sequence and it tells you what the 3 kinds of icons are. Now, as far as the artwork is pictures from the TV show. So given that this is about, you know, the TV show board game, then really it's okay. It actually is kind of nice, and it does help with the feel of the show. You're playing the show. So there's nothing special about the artwork, and I don't mind the pictures. Setup for this game is pretty easy. The first thing you do is you collect up the pieces for the corner. In a multiplayer game, you'd stack them all up because everybody's trying to get all 4, but in a single player, you just need the 1. So the police station, which once you collect that, you get to add a 1 to your attack rolls, and you can see how it still kind of rolls. I guess if you put something heavy on it, it will flatten out over time. An abandoned car lot goes over here. That lets you increase your move a little bit. Department store, which gives you an ally, and then the CDC gives you draw 2 of the scrounge cards. Alright, once you've done that, you take your standee, you put them in the camp here, so you start here and you end here, so your goal is to get around and get them all. Then you pull out your card that goes with it. Frankly, there's not a lot to these cards. They could probably do without. All it does is you have 1 special ability, so once per game you can re-roll your attack and add 2 to your roll. That is Rick's special ability. You know, Shane has a different one once per game. He can, each player in his region can give a random scrounge card to you. So each one has 1 thing they can do once per game. It's really a lot for this card. The only other thing you do with the card is, which is the next point, is you get out allies. You get 4 ally tokens per card, or per player. Since it's a 1-player game, you only get 4. 2 will sit on the card, and 2 goes into a pool. So these are like wounds. So when the zombies come and attack, I guess you throw your friend in front of the zombie. You don't have to outrun the zombie, you just have to outrun your friend. Next thing you do is you get 10 of these scrounge cards. And the scrounge cards can give you, you know, +2 to your attack roll, or they let you move a space or something. So you get 10. 5 go into your hand, and then 5 go into the deck here, and you can draw them as you go along. The rest just go back in here. And then you have your encounter cards. You lay your encounter cards out. And that is your entire setup. So that's it, and you're ready to go. Playing the game is very simple. This is one of the most incredibly simple games that I've seen. Basically, the survivor turn sequence is just you roll the die and you move that many spaces. So 4, so you can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Every space gets an encounter unless it's the no encounter space. And some others have draw a scrounge card, but you draw that card and you still get an encounter. So that's you move, then you resolve the space you land on, so no encounter, or draw your scrounge card. Then you do your encounter. Encounters work, you flip the card over. So this is a walker horde. 10 is the power, or 10 zombies. So the way you fight that, so you have to resolve it. If you win the fight, you get to draw 2 of the scrounge cards. But if you lose, you take a wound. So this is non-lethal. His one card that says when the survivor would become a walker, or when you die in the solo game, you can use this card instead. So really it's an extra ally, basically. A shotgun is +5, a rifle is +4, shotgun is +5, and a handgun is +3. So these are actually very good. Lots of them are only +1, +2, or you can move an extra space. But anyway, so this is a 10. And the way it works is you have to roll a dice and equal the 10, or get better. and you use these cards to modify. Well, oops, it's a 10, so I think I'll chance it. I'm going to use 2 cards. I'm going to use a 3 and a 5. That gives me an 8, so I have to roll. And I get a 5, so I win the fight. I discard these 2 that I used. I get to draw 2 more. And in this case, I got 2 of them that are 2s. So this goes over and discards. So that is the end of the turn. So then you roll again. Oh, I go 1 space. No encounter. 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you get here, you stop at all these corners because your goal was to collect up the 4 corners. When you get to a corner, you have to do 2 encounters. So if you flip the encounter, up, it's another 10. Okay, let's just say I only had 2 this time. Well, actually I can't do that. So let's say 6. I rolled a 3. That's less than a 10. Oh, I lost one of my allies or one of my wounds, and I lost these 2 cards. I have to do a second encounter now, so 2 encounters for each corner. Look, this one's a 5. In this case, I'm just going to use my 2 to help make sure I get it. It's a 6. 6s always win no matter what. So if you have no cards and you draw a 10, you can still roll a 6. Roll a 6 and survive. So anyway, because I've completed the 2 encounters, I get the card, and then you continue on around and try and pick up all 4. And then once you've picked up all 4, you come back to the center and you win. That's the entire game right there. So next I'll move on to actual ratings and review and discussion. I'm just going to go ahead and go straight into review, replayability, discussion, all in one sort of free form little section here. As a co-op zombie survival horror game, this may be the best game in the world, it may be the worst game in the world, I have no clue, but as a solo game, frankly, it's just kind of silly. You basically go in a circle, you try to land on no encounter cards, or you hope you do because it's all based on a dice roll. Hope that your cards in here are cards that don't have you fight anything, that just say nothing happens, and you hope that you roll 6s because you're going to need them. Other than that, there's really no tactical thought in here other than maybe 3 or 4 things. One, when you first start out here, deciding which way you go. So if you roll a 3, you can get on a no encounter card. So that's really a decision you can make, which way you go. The next really meaningful decision is which direction you go like this. Which one you go to first. After that, you're going to pick a direction and you basically have committed to going that way. So that's 2 or 3 of your decisions. So your first 3 rolls, you can decide what you're going to do. Then there's a little bit of hand management, but frankly, you're going to run out of these cards pretty quickly. You'll hang on to what you can. You try and think, okay, how much am I going to chance it? And then there is some choosing what you do when you get a card that says, either drop an ally or discard a scourge card. Frankly, other than that, there is no decision making in this game. It's roll a dice, pick up a card, roll a dice, keep going or die. That is this game in a nutshell for a 1 player. There is no additional zombies or anything exciting like that. Sorry, I had to get some coffee. I do like the idea of the limited resources and limited allies that goes with the game. That's pretty interesting. However, it's just too scarce. 10 total cards here. Now the allies, I never picked up enough for it to matter. I never got to 4. Not a big deal there. But when you think about it, if you roll a 6 every single time to get around the board, it's going to take, I think, 12 rolls. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rolls. The absolute minimum number of turns is 10 rolls. So you figure you got 10 encounters plus the 4 more extra here, so maybe 14 to 16 encounters. And then a max of 10 scrounge cards. and sometimes you've got to play double, and some of them won't help you in fights. So basically, it is really, really unbalanced in a solo game, and I lost almost every time. Even when I added extra cards, I went up to 10 extra cards instead of the 5 extra cards in here, I still only won once or twice. So even with cheating, it's hard to win. Okay, sorry to break in mid-video, but I wanted to show something about the encounter cards and why it's so hard, and when you go around you're going to run out of your scrounge cards. You only have 4 cards that are not, of this huge stack, 4 are not something bad happening to you. 2, nothing happens. 2, you actually get to draw a couple Scourge cards that you're probably, I keep calling them Scourge, Scrounge cards that you're probably out of. 6 of them are lose an ally or lose 2 Scrounge cards, and all the rest are encounters where you have to fight. So you have to roll a dice and hope. Most of them, at least half of them, are 7, 8, 9, 10s, or I think there might even be an 11 in here too. So at least half of the ones so nearly half of what you're going to draw, you have to use one of these cards, unless you've gotten the +1 to your damage rolls, and then so it's the 8s, and you'd still have to roll a 7. You'd still have to roll a 6 plus your 1 without using the card. So with a total of 10 of these cards, and some of them are going to not be numerical helpers, it is nearly impossible, without a lot of luck, landing on no encounter spaces and rolling lots of 6s in your fights, to get through this. So, okay, back to the video. The rules are super simple. They are so simple that a 6-year-old could play them. Thematically, it looks like the TV show, and everybody dies, like in the TV show, so I guess they hit the mark on everybody's going to die, you're going to die every time. But ultimately, despite all that, it's really just kind of boring. I don't know how else to say it. I kept playing just so I could really honestly say I gave it a try. So after 20 or 25 games, which literally some of the games lasted 10 minutes, no game lasted more than 30. I could say that this is boring. Alright, so the final rating for this on my scale of on the table, which means I want to play it all the time, on the shelf, which means I'll bring it out every 2 or 3 months for a binge weekend, in the closet, which means, a couple times a year I'll bring it out and play it, trade it, send it off to someone else, not my game, but maybe a good game in there, or trash it. You don't even want to give that away to somebody. This definitely falls into the trade it category, and that's because there's a 2 versus 2 game that sounds like there might be some fun in there. Solo play, if this was only a solo 1-player game, it'd be a trash it, get rid of it. But because there is this 2, it sounds interesting and intriguing, this 2 players versus 2 zombies going at it. So that might be kind of fun, and maybe as a co-op it's good, I don't know. So I'll follow it into the trade it rating for that. The biggest telling thing for me as a solo game was, I played Zombicide a whole bunch before this, so that may have jaded it a little bit, but when I lost at Zombicide, I wanted to play again. I wanted to beat it, I wanted to play, it was fun and exciting. When I lose at this one, I'm like, okay, put it away. There is no replayability or interest here, it's going in circles. So, like I said, kind of boring gameplay, not very intellectually stimulating. I don't feel the zombie hordes coming at me. I feel like I'm flipping a card and rolling a dice, and I either die or I don't. So, when I die, there's no real intense desire to play again. So, that leaves it to my trade it. If it was not for that 2 versus 2 that I think people might like, I'd be a trash it. So, that is my opinion, and only my opinion, based on my solo play of this game. I will continue to try and work my way through my board games. So until next time, happy gaming.